Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Alexandra Rodriguez Figueroa, and I am the Director of Student Conduct and Title IX here at St. Philip's College. And I'll be moderating this morning's panel. So good morning and welcome to this year's First Generation College Student Day celebration, Empowering First Generation Success. Today, we celebrate the strength and resilience of our students who are the first generation in their families to attend college. We also celebrate our faculty and staff who were the first generation in their families to graduate. If you were a first generation graduate, please stand. We offer you all a round of applause. Come on, let me hear you. And thank you for devoting your career to serving other first gen students. I would like to extend a special welcome to our three panelists today. Monique Johnson Dixon is a psychology faculty member at St. Philip's College in the Social and Behavioral Sciences Department with over 15 years of combined experience in teaching, training, workshop development, and facilitating in higher education. Monique's specialty areas in psychology consist of health, personality, lifespan development, and adjustment. She loves being able to share the passion of psychology with her students. Monique is a yoga and Pilates enthusiast with certifications in both areas. Monique's educational background consists of a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology, Master of Science in Psychology, and a Master of Business Administration in Healthcare Management. Monique is currently pursuing a PhD in health psychology with a research focus on exploring the interpretive phenomenological analysis of trust-related health benefits in medical institution systems among Black Americans since COVID-19. Dean Chris Beardsall began his professional career in 1991 in the auto collision and refinishing industry, spending 15 years as an automotive refinishing technician in San Antonio. In 2003, he began attending college and in 4 years earned his bachelor's degree from the University of Texas in San Antonio in history, while continuing to work a part-time subcontracting as refinishing technician and consultant at San Antonio's collision centers. After graduating in 2007, he began working on his master's degree in education and in 2009, graduated from Schreiner University with a master's in education. Dean Beardsall has been with St. Philip's College for the past 16 years. He spent 2 years from 2007 to 2009 as a full-time adjunct instructor. Then from 2009 to 2014 as a full-time instructor and assistant professor in the auto collision and refinishing program. Chris joined the St. Philip's administration as Dean for Applied Science and Technology in the fall of 2014, where he currently serves. Dr. Eric Castillo is a second-generation Chicano from Janaguana, San Antonio, Texas, a social justice practitioner and scholar, helping to produce a just, compassionate, and liberated world. He serves as Associate Vice Chancellor of Arts, Culture, and Community Impact for the Alamo Community Colleges District, where he is currently building relationships and strategic initiatives across the organization to strengthen and accelerate its readiness for positive and sustainable challenge. Dr. Castillo received his PhD in American Studies from the University of New Mexico and was an Andrew W. Mellon Fellowship recipient and Israel-Palestine Studies Faculty Fellowship recipient. He currently holds a Racial Healing Practitioner Fellowship with the Wisdom Keepers National Comadres Network, funded through the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. His most recent publication, Justice in Action, Decolonial and Anti-Racist Work Inside, Outside the Master's House, appears in the book Deconstructing Constructs of Whiteness in Higher Education, Narratives of Resistance from the Academy, published in 2022. Let's give them all a round of applause. Now, the first question for our panelists is, what What challenged you and or surprised you the most as a first-gen student?
Oh, I get to go ahead? Okay. Okay, well, I guess I will go first. I will say my challenges were, since I am a first gen student, is that I did not know how to navigate the whole college scene when I first came in, because I did not have those resources. I did not have that access. And so I remember when I first entered college as an undergrad, um, yeah, there was a lot of mess ups there. For instance, and I share this story with everybody, with all my students, is that I remember I stopped just going to class because I thought I was just going to be dropped from the class. And then I found out that that was not the case, that I got a grade, and it wasn't the grade that I wanted. It was an F. And so um, from that point on, it only took one time, and I knew from that point what I needed to do. So my biggest challenge as a whole in sharing that story is that I really didn't understand the whole system of how to navigate through college. And that's one of the things I'm going to say I really do appreciate about SPC, is that there are these resources, so many resources here. So that was my challenge. There's more, but
Thank you.
So what challenged me or surprised me?
Mhm. The most as a first-gen student.
What challenged me was learning how to study, right? So the last time I was in class before I went to college was in 1991. I was 16 years old. I dropped out of high school. So then fast forward 12 years and I'm going into college, and I go in my first semester, you know, it's all your intro classes, right? And I was breezing through them. I'm like, college, whatever. But then I hit the more advanced classes, right? And I realized I didn't know how to study. I didn't know how to study for tests. I didn't know how to correctly write papers or ask for help to write papers. So learning how to study and prepare for the classes, get feedback on my papers, that's the thing that surprised me and that challenged me the most. And then when I transferred to UTSA, so I was at Northwest Vista for my first 2 years. But I found for me what worked was study groups, right? Bouncing ideas off of each other, my peers being able to explain concepts in class that I may have been struggling with on my own. So just finding those avenues of ways of understanding the content, because I'm not a good test taker. I'm a better paper writer, right? So I needed people to help me understand concepts that I was going to need to take a test on, right? And then I there in turn could help people write their papers. But it was finding ways to study, finding ways to be successful, because like I said, I dropped out of high school when I was 16. I hit a wall at one point to where I thought if I couldn't get this done, I was just going to drop out of college as well, right? So I had to so what really challenged me was finding a way to study, finding a way to learn the content when it really wasn't in my wheelhouse. So that was one.
Thank you. Dr. Castillo.
So good afternoon, folks. Good morning. Buenos días. Tatin Milam. What challenged me, I think when I was in high school, I felt that I was thriving. It was a very different environment in high school, because you had faculty who were there with you, you had peers, you were part of groups together, you were at that school for 8 hours a day, for months and months at a time. And I think of myself as an intelligent person, so I took AP classes and I got college credit for it. But when I transitioned, I actually first went to American University in Washington D.C., and that was a culture shock for me. I was unprepared to be in an environment. I'm from San Antonio, so for me, I was looking for community that sounded like me, that looked like me, that I could connect with, and it was largely absent. And because I didn't have the cultural connection, that was very tough for me. So I dropped my first semester, and I came back, and I got a job at HEB, and then I went to San Antonio College, and And I thought because I thrived in high school, I was going to thrive in college. And that was a rude awakening because I was not prepared. I mean, I felt, like I said, really strong and intelligent, but I could not make the transition. It was incredibly difficult for me. I was taking classes and upper division courses, and I just struggled. I mean, nothing was computing. I think I also did not have a sense of community. And in the community college setting, I think like 80+% of our students are part-timers. So I had to work full time. So I was coming here, I was going to class and running to my car to get to my next job, working full time. And that was a struggle because I didn't have community. And I realized that's why I think my work that I do here at Alamo Community Colleges District is so much rooted in community, because I didn't have that when I was in college. And I know the benefit of that. And I've experienced the beauty of it when I see students connect. When I see students connect with their academic department, with faculty, with staff, and with each other. That for me, it's that human connection. We come into this world as part of something already. We're connected to another human being. We're connected to communities, to caregivers, and then we have to be able to replicate a similar experience for our students. And for me, I didn't have that.
Dr. Castillo, before we move on to the next question, you mentioned that you dropped out your first semester.
Mhm.
What motivated you to come back, even though you were facing all of those challenges?
Well, I mean, I don't know. When I was like in second grade, my dad always tells me that I was like, Mijo, like I asked my dad, like, Dad, what's after high school? He's like, well, you go to college. I said, okay, well, I said, what's after your bachelor's? You get a master's degree. What happens after your master's degree? You get your doctorate. So this is what I was told, and something just sparked in me the interest. I always knew in my heart and in my spirit that I was going to get a doctorate. I didn't know so much in what, but that was just the motivation. I think as I looked back in time, it's because so few of my community, I mean, we're less than 0.1% of all doctorates in this country are by Chicanas y Chicanos. So that was a motivation of itself to know that one person could exponentially increase that percentage and create better representation.
Thank you. Okay, our next question is, what or who helped you the most as a first-gen student? What or who helped you the most?
For me, I kind of already touched on it, but it was the what, the different. I was older, or I was 27 years old when I went back to college. I had 2 newborns. I had twins. And so what helped me the most was all the resources that were available to me. Because I stopped working full time and making a living for myself. I was working part time. I was doing contract work. And then I was also Mr. Mom on the days I wasn't going to school and doing contract work. So trying to make ends meet was really difficult. So there was a lot of resources out there to help me make ends meet, to provide childcare, scholarships. And so it was just finding all the avenues, because basically what I'm saying is, like, you don't have to do it on your own, right? That there are, you might have family and friends at home that support you and want you to go to school, but you're going to need more than that. And so it was being able to find all of those resources that I could tap into, like I said, scholarships, childcare, just different avenues of making some money, that was able to help me stay on my path to complete my degree. Because like I said, there were times where I thought, hey, I dropped out once, I got a career and I was doing just fine for myself financially. I still had that mindset for quite a while. And so whenever things got tough financially, I was like, you know what, I could always go back to painting cars, no problem. And I can make ends meet that way. But I had to really work to find those resources, apply for those resources. So that's what really helped me.
Thank you. Who wants to go next? Dr. Castillo.
So back in the day, I mean, this is 20 something years ago, we had paper forms to take to every single department across the institution. And I had no idea where to go, what to do. And I was grateful that my sister was 2 years ahead of me and learned by just figuring things out. So one is I was copycatting exactly what my sister did. I mean, I copycatted the classes she was taking. I copycatted her class roster. I even considered the same major because I just didn't know. And higher education, post-secondary education did not make it easy for us. And it felt as if it was a second full-time job, just figuring out how to navigate things. And as my sister was also trying to figure it out, I just, I was grateful that I found some faculty that just really cared about me. By that time I went to University of the Incarnate Word, and I found Sister Yolanda Tarango. I found Dr. Valerie Greenberg, Dr. Doral Fitzgerald, Dr. Steve Liu, Professor Mercer. These folks just, were so dedicated not only to the profession, but to their students. And it just, that's what really helped them. I could ask them questions. They probably didn't know about advising, but they knew somebody. They knew, I don't know, Cleophas in advising that they could talk to about the work, and connect me to it. And so I realized early on, because I had good relationships in high school, that having good relationships with faculty would help me succeed, because I wasn't used to asking questions. I was very quiet. I didn't really know how to.
You were quiet?
Can you
Nah.
imagínate, I'm not, but
Nah.
I'm
What
very,
happened?
I'm very introverted, I mean, so my battery level is depleting as I'm talking, so I'm gonna turn into a pumpkin about 2:45 today, because I'm just gonna run out of energy. But I plugged into the right people, and then they gave me direction, they gave me life and energy. And I see people in this room that I know, from here from St. Philip's College, who do the same for me, even in my world today.
Good, thank you. Monique, what helped you the most, or who?
So I will say who helped me the most. So many people have helped me the most, but I'm going to actually start with my parents. Really helped me the most. And then I had some great mentors. My parents, education was very big for them. Excuse me, education was very big for them, especially because they didn't have the opportunities. And so they were always pushing me. But I also at the same time have the desire too, because I would look around and I'm like, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then when I got into college, I had some really great mentors. I can't remember all my professors' names. But I had some really great mentors that really encouraged and pushed me, especially at times where maybe I kind of doubted myself a little bit, or sometimes a lot. And so I just had a really whole host of great mentors, starting with my parents, really saying, look, we really want you to get an education. We didn't have the opportunity to, so we want you to do it. And I wanted to do it too. So I don't want to say it was just them, but I wanted to do it too. So
There we go. And I'm sure that you're working hard to be a memorable professor. I know you are.
I definitely am. I'm working very hard, and I wish both of them were still around to see all the progress. But
Great. Well, at this point, we would like to take some questions from the audience. Any questions for our panelists? Questions in the chat? No questions in the chat? Over here? No? All right.
questions?
No questions. Tell us about the path you took to get to your field of study and current job. The path you
So-
took to
okay.
get to your field of study and current job.
So the eyes looked to the left. That means me. I don't know. So my undergrad was in communication arts. I'll say though that when I was in high school, I was really involved. And so I thought to myself, I want to be a senator one day, or maybe I'll be the first Mexican-American president. It's like, I really had those aspirations to be that kind of leader for people. But it wasn't until I got plugged into community organizations and just like grassroots work that I was like, well, I feel like real change happens in the community. I feel the real change happens when we're plugging into someone's abuelita or going to a cultural center and just, leading from the center, leading from the core, and leading from a more less hierarchical and more horizontal relationship with people and communities. And so I dropped that whole senator stuff. I realized that wasn't really what I wanted to do, is wear suits and ties, hence the Guayabera. And I just, I really just wanted to develop my understanding of how we communicate ideas. Because, oftentimes when I was in school, K through 12, my community's history was largely absent from textbooks, where in San Antonio, we could look to a mural to learn something. We were reduced to a paragraph in a history book. And so I knew that as I learned more about my history, my community locally, and I started to understand the way that we make meanings of messages and how we make meanings of images, that I started to focus on, studying media studies and communication arts. And then that was interesting to me, but I also had like this interest in academics, like sort of deep philosophical conversation. So I didn't want to lose the sort of activist strain that I was developing in myself, that voice, but I also wanted to find the academic in me. And so I just was looking at ways in which, like, how do I embed, stuff about community, visual arts, and communication. And I found the program of American Studies, and it was an interdisciplinary field that just really gave me great insight about understanding history from a very nuanced way. How do we understand this larger narrative about this country's history? And how can stories of those who are not prominent in that history, how do those stories tell a greater story? And how do the voices of those in the community, how do artists, how do activists, how do teachers add something to the dynamism of what we understand to be US history? And I started to research on that. And I looked at the ways in which public artwork was being used as a disruptive mechanism, and how artists of color and other disenfranchised groups were using the built environment, were using sculpture, using installations, and how community centers were using, or how we're connecting to tell a different picture, to tell a more complete picture of communities that we all represent. And that just kind of got me into the world of, working towards better, just, and liberated world. And now here I am.
Thank you. Who would like to be next?
Oh, really? Okay, so I guess I'm next since I got a finger pointed at me over here, so. You're like, okay. So my path, what led me to my path is I have always been interested in behavior, health, just people as a whole. And I was also interested because I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me in this arena growing up. And so when I first took my journey, I initially wanted to be a doctor, but then I realized that I will be a doctor, but not the type of doctor that I initially started off wanting to be, which was actually working in like a hospital setting. But I don't like blood. And so like I don't like blood and all of that. So I took a different route. And so I am very big on health. I'm very big on behaviors. I'm very big on looking at minority populations, specifically right now at this point, as you heard with my long title, I am really focused on looking at Black Americans and their trust-related issues when it comes to medical institutional systems. So I want to make a difference. I think we all want to make a difference. And so that's it in a nutshell.
Excellent. Demirso?
So I have a bachelor's in history from UTSA. I just always enjoyed history and anthropology. I know, like, I talked to middle school and high school kids, and they're like, oh, history, memorizing dates and stuff like that. But you get into college history and anthropology, and it's about, the societies coming together and how we got to where we are, and, theorizing on if something happened a different way, what kind of path could history have taken, and so that's why I really enjoyed writing those papers and reading books and stuff like that. And again, like I said, tied into anthropology, I got an opportunity to go to South America, to Bolivia for 6 weeks and do some archaeology work, because that was part of my anthropology, was part of my minor. So I needed an archaeology course, and so I was able to study abroad for a summer and do that, and then being able to tie everything on like the things that we were looking for when we did our digs and stuff, and coming up and theorizing about the society. And so the anthropology led into the history, right? You're theorizing about a society from the pottery and the things that you're digging up, and then turning that into, a historical record, down the line. So that always really interested me. So that's where that's where my degree came from. But graduating, as far as my position now, I had intended to teach 7th and 8th grade history and social studies. But when I graduated, all of the districts were in a hiring freeze because like a recession was coming in 2008. So they were like hiring freeze. It just so happened there was an adjunct position at the Southwest campus to teach auto body and paint. I had actually thought I was leaving the auto body and paint business behind totally. But then when I got in as an adjunct and I realized that it wasn't the content that I was teaching, like history, it was the fact that I really enjoyed teaching. I really enjoyed passing along what I had to offer to those who are willing to learn it. And still to this day, some of my greatest moments are when I was teaching a student how to do something on a car and they're struggling and then boom, the light bulb goes off, right? And man, they take off with it, right? Whether it's being the theory, color theory, or it's actual application, hands-on application of fixing a car. So that's always been really awesome. I enjoyed teaching, and somehow I became an administrator. And so I've been an administrator for the past 9 years. And so, but I still, it makes the job worth it when we're able to see you guys walk across the stage, right? After all the work and effort that you put into your degree here at St. Philip's College, right? And then, you know, anything we can do to help to get you through that. So that's how I got here.
Well, you're an administrator because we need the best to lead the way.
I
So,
don't know about that.
okay. Any questions from the audience? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. Dean Beardsall, thank you so much for bringing up study abroad. Because my question is, as a first-gen student, did you engage in activities outside of the classroom, such as study abroad, clubs, orgs, leadership programming, community service, or internships? And how did these experiences help you as a student and as a professional?
So I didn't have a whole lot of time to participate in clubs, and like matter of fact, during like rush week at UTSA, I was like, I'm the wrong guy. You don't want me at all. So I didn't have a whole lot of time to participate in like any type of clubs and everything, but I was able to participate and study abroad and be able to travel, like I said, to Bolivia, South America. I spent 6 weeks down there. Spent 5 weeks in the Andes Mountains where we literally could not call out for 6 weeks. And all we did was hike and do surveys. And we did 2 major digs. But I say all that because that led to an experience that is just life-changing. We came across, as one of our digs, we got about 3 meters down, we hit this gigantic rock, flat rock, totally out of place. And we had paid the Quechuan, that's the indigenous people down there, the Quechuan people tribe, to come help us with it, help us navigate the mountains and that kind of thing. When we hit this rock, it was totally out of place. Even I thought it was out of place, but the folks helping us knew it was out of place, and they jumped out of that. They were telling us, that's a grave, get out. So we got out, spent the rest of the afternoon talking with their shaman and their leaders, and they said, okay, you have to come back the next day and do a ceremony to Pachamama. That's the earth goddess in South America that they believe in and worship. So we went to the market, we gathered all the essential things to do a offering to Pachamama, and all of us went through and did it. And so we bought candies and chocolates and incense, alcohol. She likes to drink apparently. And I know everybody goes through their own financial times, so this is going to be a little side note. These individuals that live out in the Andes, they have such very little money. If they want to drink and get a little buzz on, they drink rubbing alcohol with Kool-Aid. So we were doing that too. So anyways, we went through the entire ceremony. It was 6 of us. We all had to go through, and at the end we were blessed by their shaman with a a llama fetus to draw all the bad spirits out of us and cleanse ourselves. And only after we all did that and we made the offering to Pachamama were we allowed back into the pit to finish our excavation of that site. So that was just, that helped me see their culture. But then it made me realize, holy shit, holy crap, there is a lot of cultures out there that I am so interested in now and that I don't know about. So I like to travel and I've been all over the place. And so I just love learning about everybody's culture. So it opened my eyes to like, there's so much out there. And so that was, I was really only able to do in my situation that one big thing outside of normal just going to class. But that was really life-changing to me because it helps me appreciate everybody has their own culture, their own background, their own personality. We're all individuals and we need to be treated like that. And so, yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Hello. My question to y'all is, did y'all have any pushback from the community? And if so, the struggles, the mindset that you had to go through to get to where you are now?
Interesting.
So great question. So being first generation, first in the family, there's a lot of misunderstandings about what it means to be a college graduate or to be a college student. And at least in my extended family, there was some feelings that maybe I thought I was better than them because I have family who are ex-Pinto, who are justice impacted, formerly incarcerated, and so thank you. And so there we have folks who have not graduated in high school. My mom and dad both have 12 brothers and sisters on each side of the family, and they're one of a few that actually have high school degrees. And so there was just this misunderstanding at first, not really sure why I needed to get this, why wasn't I going, to go for a different kind of career path. And so there was always questions and making fun of me because and I don't know, I'm sure there are probably other reasons why, but it was tough, that for my own family, extended family, that there was just not always the level of support. But then I rather than taking that as like a criticism, I took that as an opportunity to let them know like what this will do for our community and for our family and how it's helped broaden my perspective. It's taught me critical thinking and it's helped me be a better person in society. And so now we are much more of there's only 4 of us in our entire, we have hundreds of cousins, only 4 of us that are still, we have more family who are justice impacted than we have those that are in college. And I hope that that we can change that around, but it took some time to still bring to awareness that college is a good thing and it doesn't make us better. It makes us better persons for ourselves, but it doesn't mean that we're better than other people.
Monique,
So I will kind of piggyback off of Dr. Castillo. So I will say like within my immediate family, I didn't get pushback, but it was a lot of times kind of outside of the family. So it would be individuals like that I would run into who would say, why are you even doing this? And it's because I really believed in what I was doing. And I wanted to be able to be in a position to share my passion with others, with my students, with everyone else. But there was pushback like through various levels. I do remember one time this was also as a graduate, that ironically, one professor did say to me, so what are you trying to achieve with this? And I was like, what do you mean? What am I trying to achieve with this? Because my first reaction was like, I got riled up. I'm very calm usually, but I was like, why are you asking me this question? And I remember he told me, well, you know, the majority of Black individuals, I mean, they're like uneducated. There's no point in you really proceeding further than this. And I was like, what? And at that time, I just kind of took that feedback, but it fired me up even more so. Of course, at that time, I didn't know that you can do a whole thing of like reporting and all of that. I just accepted it and it fueled me. But I will say like instances like that really fueled me and made me stronger in the sense of like, oh, really? This is what you think? I'm going to show you that I can push for it. So, yeah.
I only had internal pushback. Nothing from the outside. In my head, I was actually what her pushback was like, why are you doing this? Why did you quit making money and come to school? And that was a big thing for me. So yeah, mine was just mostly internal, just fighting my own demons.
Okay.
I
We
do have a question. What is Alamo doing right now for our first gen students and what can we do better?
I'll just briefly say that, so I mean, this first gen movement here at St. Philip's College is brilliant. You know, like it signals a very visible recognition that our students who are first generation are not alone, and that they have administrators, faculty, leadership that have also been there, so that hopefully we serve as light posts for folks to help point them in the direction where they need to go. I think that's wonderful, and I think as an organization that we could do a greater job of working in greater community across the 5 colleges so that we have a replicable experience for all first gen students across the board.
Very good. Anybody else?
Yeah, and to add to that, I think you know, the Alamo College is involved in kind of connects, but Alamo College is involved in the Pathway Institute across Texas. So what that is ensuring that our students, you know, have a pathway to entrance to completion, right? And then all of the support services in between, making sure you stay on your academic goals and your academic pathway. And within that pathway is mentoring, right? And so I think first gen, we can identify maybe first gen mentors, right? So just starting and having something like this to let you guys know we weren't just awesome right off the bat. We had to work to get here too. And so being able to tell our experience in kind of a formal setting like this, but I think turning it and morphing it into perhaps a mentoring program, and being able to support each other that way, because, you know, we're got to here, but we're by no means perfect. And we keep working hard on ourselves to continue to stay here or go even further in our lives and our careers. So I think that one-on-one and that mentoring would be a good addition to the first gen experience.
Great. We do have time for one more question. One more.
But I'm not volunteering to be a mentor. No, I'm just kidding.
So knowing that approximately 20% of St. Philip's College students are parenting students, what recommendations can you make to first gen students who are also parenting minors?
Again, this is another thing that the Alamo College is me and Dean Rehome are on a task force to address assisting and supporting students who are also parents. And that's something, like I mentioned earlier, that's something that hits home with me, that's close to my heart, is because I was a student who was also a parent. My first day of class, my twins were only 4 months old. And so I was learning how to be a new dad as well as a new student. And like I said in one of my answers earlier, if it wasn't for the support services that I was able to find, then I don't think I would have been able to make it through, especially childcare. So that's one thing that the task force is looking at. It's one thing that we're really pushing is more and more support services for our students who are parents, financially, emotionally, being able to bring a child to campus and knowing you have somewhere that you can go that's family friendly, that has coloring books and iPads and video games. So that way you can conduct your business while you're here, whether it's, seeing your advisor or a meeting with your instructor. So there's a lot of things that the Alamo Colleges is doing, St. Philip's College is doing. But the biggest thing, in my opinion, that we need to do for first gen, for economically disadvantaged students, for students who are parents, is making sure we advertise from the bill, from blinking, flashing signs. We have support for you. We're here for you. You just need to come ask us for it, and we'll do anything we can to help you. But there are so many support systems in place here. Don't ever think that you're on your own, regardless of where you land in all of these categories. There's support here for you, and we will get it for you. If I don't know how to get it, I'm going to reach out to my colleagues and I'll find it for you, right? All of our student success folks, all the academic success folks in college services, we want to see you succeed. So you hear all these labels and categories: first gen, students with parents. You know what? We have support services for all of them and everybody. So, yeah. The first, the first college graduate of your generation, right? In your family. So my parents weren't college graduates, my grandparents weren't college graduates, and then my brothers and sisters aren't either. I keep encouraging them to go ahead and finish, but so yeah, so as Marissa was saying, good.
Your parents are not graduates, even if your older brother or sister, if you married people are, you're still considered.
Alexandra, I do have one question from Southwest Campus.
Yes, ma'am.
What sacrifices did you have to make, whether personal or educational, in order to get where you are today? And is there anything that you regret?
Well.
I take it as Dean Beardsall's going to answer that.
I'll let you start off with that one.
Read it again. I just remember the regret portion. I don't know how to answer. I don't
So,
regret anything. I just thought it was
what
interesting.
sacrifices did either of y'all have to make, whether personal or educational, in order to get where you are today? And is there anything that you regret?
Okay, while you're thinking, I guess I'll go in. So, oh my God, so many sacrifices, but I will say the major one is, well, I don't really know if it was per se a sacrifice. It's just that I didn't get to have as many fun times as other people did because I was so focused on my studies and finishing and moving to the next point. And so I feel like I kind of missed out on forming certain relationships and so forth. I tell everybody I did not get married till much later in life because I was like, I am not going to be in a relationship. I'm not going to do this or that because my focus is solely on this. So sometimes I feel like I did miss out on like certain relationships, but at the same time, I look at it as it probably wasn't even meant to be to have those particular relationships. So I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle. Like, yeah.
So I think that I had to work full time when I was a student. I had no choice. I had to support my parents. My father had to retire early because he had heart conditions, and so I didn't get to have the sort of, I guess, picturesque undergraduate experience. You know, I literally would run from my car after class, and I would speed all the way to Bank of America at McCreary Small, for those who know McCreary Small area. And I had to work full time. I mean, you know, I had to take whatever classes would be on my 2 days off I had during the week. And so I took classes that didn't always make a lot of sense, but it got me my degree. So I didn't have it, but you know, I don't have regrets because for me, if I've learned from it, then it's not something that, you know, that for me is the key. So I wish I would have known early on that balance is important, you know, balancing my sense of rest and restoration would be big.
I did all that.
Mhm. Ready?
So I think the sacrifice, it's much like Dr. Castillo. I didn't have the traditional college experience, right? Except for that one outlier of being able to travel abroad was the one event that, but like, you know, like I wasn't able to join clubs and spend a lot of time on campus and go to the rec center, et cetera. It was school, take care of kids, school, work, take care of kids. So anyways, that's the one thing that, you know, I look back and I kind of missed out on. The one regret I have is that learning about my mental health and taking care of my mental health earlier. You know, it's just been recently that I've been able to understand it, take care of it, stop having anxiety attacks, stop self-medicating. And so I regret not being able to speak about it, to be upfront about it. And it cost me some things, well, I mean, it cost me mostly my own mental health, you know, a lot of anxiety attacks for a while. And so, and being able to just be more compassionate to others as well, because I know everybody has their own thing. And so I regret not being a little more open to myself and about myself and being able to take care of myself better. And managing my stress and managing my workload and stuff like that. So take care of yourselves.
I just want to, first of all, thank you, Dean Beardsall, for saying that. I think that's important that we have honest and open conversations. We don't do that a lot, at least in my culture, talking about mental health. I have been seeing a therapist for like 3 years, and I'm not ashamed of that because it's like going to the gym, going to a faith-based organization is an investment into my well-being. And I want my life to be in equilibrium. That includes my mental health. So thank you for bringing that up.
And I will say,
Absolutely.
if I can add to.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chris, for sharing that because mental health is important. And especially a lot of times people don't really want to talk about it, but I think it is important that we do have discussions about mental health. And I want to add one more additional thing. Just in confirming with Dr. Castillo that we were talking about like sacrifices, same thing for me as well too, was like I was working like full-time, working a part-time job because I was just trying to also pay for school. So I lost out on, when I was talking about relationships, that's where I lost out on kind of like relationships and stuff because I was so focused on trying to make sure that I was able to pay for school and also help my parents in the process as well too. So it was a lot, but I don't have any regrets. I will say I don't have any regrets.
Well, we are out of time. So thank you for joining us for this year's First Generation College Student Day celebration. We are extremely proud of all of our first generation students. Your success will have an impact on your families and communities for generations. We ask you to please complete our survey. Back there, Nikki has the QR codes. And please grab one of our first gen t-shirts if you are a first gen student. Thank you to our panelists and please grab something to eat as well. Thank you.